Work Package 3 is dealing with the impact of mainly the Global Pact on Refugees on the governance of international protection. The research question is whether institutional location within the state of agencies competent for asylum matters. The Global Compact on Refugees call for a strengthening of asylum systems, and we will analyze how institutions affect the effectiveness of this protection. In Hungary, the authorities have shown recently that there's a high stake in defining the agency competent for deciding which asylum seekers are eligible for international protection. The changing name of the Hungarian agency competent for protection is an expression of the changing governmental policy. Asylum policy has shifted in Hungary from serving the humanitarian objective to provide protection to refugees towards the objective to assist the police in combating illegal immigration. The decision of eligibility has remained in the hands of the Ministry of Interiors, but the agency has been reshuffled already 3 times. Before 2017, the Office of Immigration and Nationality within the Ministry of Interiors decided as well about access to the community of those with a right of abode in Hungary as to the access to the Hungarian nation. International protection and acquisition of Hungarian nationality were decided by the same agency. Getting international protection was a first step at being considered a full-fledged member of the Hungarian community. Acquiring Hungarian citizenship was the second step. In 2017, it was decided that the Office of Immigration and the Office of Nationality were 2 very different identities with hardly related competences. From 2017 onwards, the competence of the Office of Immigration was explicitly extended to asylum, while before 2017, granting protection to asylum seekers was not considered a competence worth enough attention to be referred to in the name of the institution. This changed in 2017. In July 2019, there was another institutional reshufflement. The competence of granting protection became part of the National Directorate General for Aliens Policing, of which you can see here the logo, an agency dedicated to the safeguarding of public order threatened by criminals and asylum seekers. We all know the manner by which Viktor Orban, the dictator of Hungary, I quote the former president of the Commission, Juncker, how Viktor Orban instrumentalized the policy domain of asylum in his bid for power. These ever-changing institutions are testimony of this cynical process. Still, institutional innovations, institutional shifts in the domain of asylum policy are not uncommon in the European Union. In Austria, it has always been a competition of the Ministry of the Interiors, but while until 1992, Bundesasylamt, the federal asylum organization, was in charge, from 1992 it became the Bundesamt for Fremdenwesen und Asyl, Federal Agency for Immigration and Asylum. In France, on the other hand, since the early 1950s, refugee policy France in the early 50s, refugee policy has been a competence of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. OFPRA, l'Office français de protection des réfugiés et des apatrides, the French Alien Asylum Agency, was a section within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for half a century, but then, at the end of the year 2000, it was decided to transfer the agency to the Ministry of Interiors. Belgium and the Netherlands, they are other examples of a change in institutional architecture of asylum determination. Both countries had given UNHCR in the 1950s considerable input in the policy to determine whether asylum seekers were eligible for refugee status. It were small states which considered, after the Second World War, that they had most to win from the international refugee regime. They both fully supported the newly created UNHCR, that they even subcontracted part of their national sovereignty to this supranational body. In both countries, the Ministry of Justice, in charge of immigration policy, lost power to the UNHCR, which obtained an input in the asylum procedure. In both countries, the so-called interests, so-called national interests, as defended by the national authorities, and the interests of the refugees, as advocated by UNHCR, at times collided. UNHCR insisted on a refugee termination procedure in which the integrity and fairness was central. During the 1980s, mainly because of its global responsibility, UNHCR withdrew from the Dutch and Belgian eligibility procedure. From 1940 onwards, the Dutch Immigration and Naturalization Service, an independent agency within the Ministry of Justice, became fully in charge of immigration policy, including asylum. In Belgium, the office of the Commissioner General for Refugees and Stateless Persons took charge solely of asylum policy, and agency separate of the Immigration Office in charge of all other immigration matters. In Belgium, both this Commissioner General and the Immigration Office were transferred from the Ministry of Justice to the Ministry of the Interiors. This work package is interested in the institutional architecture of asylum determination, not for the sake of institutional setups or their efficiency, but for the effectiveness of the asylum agency eligibility decisions. Effectiveness in terms of protecting refugees, or in a fair determination procedure in which also integrity and adaptability to protection needs is central. The work package is a combined effort of the University of Ghent and the University of Bergen, as we use qualitative methods and quantitative methods. They will be applied to understand whether these distinct institutional locations of asylum agency affect their effectiveness. Thank you.